we're not in neutral. Let's try that. Now that is where we're trying to get. So underneath this plate and this plate are all the mechanisms for the actual brakes and the clutch. So we're going to start by taking this plate off here and seeing what we can see without having to remove everything. That side's working actually pretty well. This side does not work at all. So something is stuck, broken, disconnected. I don't know yet. So okay, so that's just access to see our bevel gears. They look really good. So these are the gears essentially that transmit power from the actual transmission back here to this big bull gear. And then that drives the shaft that goes out to each one of the sprockets. It looks amazing in there. The oil doesn't look terrible. The gasket must be that like anaerobic stuff that seals without oxygen. I'm not the biggest fan of that because I don't know, you have to have a perfectly flat surface usually. Not sure what I'm going to do, if I'm going to reseal that or make a gasket. I'm going to do something. We're going to clean that up. But for now, let's throw this cover back on, put the bolts back in because we need to open this. So I've already taken off the spring. So they both feel about the same. They both feel like they're doing the same thing inside, so we need to go deeper. Oh, my hammer broke. That sucks. Oh well. It does not look good in there. I see water or rust. Yep, let's drop that cotter pin in there. We'll have to find it later. we go, got that off. Right. Well, these are supposed to be dry clutch setups. It is not dry in there. There is absolutely a ton of water and a ton of rust. Hey, Mr. B, stay out. All right, so there's the inside of the clutch housing. And all that, let's see if I can show you down here. All that is water. And it's just been sitting in here. The actual brake bands are right here. They don't even look all that hard to replace. Like some machines, it's ridiculous. I got everything off and into this in literally a matter of like less than an hour. And that's me filming it all, which means it takes longer. So it looks like there's this fork here. And it looks like it pivots right here. So something should happen. This thing should move. I bet it's not. But this mechanism it'd be for the actual brake. And then there's a spring down here that should be pulling probably tighter. Let's drain this out and we'll go from there. It's definitely draining, but we definitely have some sludge down there. Since I'm this far in, I decided to open the other side too. So it doesn't look much better, but it does look better. Now I see one thing. Whatever this spring is supposed to do, it is broken. And this is the side that actually works. This one's not. There's definitely water down in this one too, so let's pull the plug on it, get it draining. I think I'm going to drive it forward, and we're going to pressure wash the heck out of these bays, just to kind of get them all the dirt and all the rust and debris out, and then we can kind of take a look at it. I mean, there is significantly less meat on that one as compared to this one. And maybe this side is just worn out and the brakes just don't grab anymore. You can adjust it. That's what this is. This will screw it down tighter. But I have not messed with the adjustments at all. Here's how much water was in the first side that we drained. Probably a few gallons. Well, it's probably a little bit less in the other side, but these are definitely supposed to be dry. So there's definitely some buildup on that. It looks like it is a magnetic drain plug, but no big chunks, nothing I wouldn't already expect out of a machine that's been sitting this long, and a machine from the 70s, so good to see that. found the problem. The clutch is not disengaging at all. So these little pistons, they extend open and closed. And they basically pull the clutch and disengage the clutch. And this one does not move. I'll show you. First off, here's how it should look. Watch right here and watch right there. Now here's the side that's not working. So right here, it is rusted in there, so it's not disengaging. All right, well, seeing that really helps me know that we're in the right place to be able to get this track moving. Essentially, the way it works is when you push the pedal up here, there is a small little hydraulic button. That's what I'm going to call it. And is right, grab my light, right here, right there. See that? So you push on this with your pedal. Pedal goes down, it contacts that first. So what that does, that sends hydraulic fluid through here, through this little line, to this little cylinder here. And this little cylinder pushes out on this fork assembly. Basically kind of like a throw-out bearing. And so when it pushes out this way, the clutch will pull out. And on this side, it was working fine. So that thing pushes out, actually, it pushes out probably another inch as compared to this side. And the reason is because the clutch is stuck inside of this outer gear, basically the outer portion of the actual clutch. The brakes, they're free. You know, it's not stuck to the outside of the clutch. So it's not our problem. What our problem is, and this mechanism, it's loose, it's moving. Inside here, that water sitting in there caused the teeth of the actual clutch to rust in place and basically rust attached into there. So what I think I'm going to do, I've got some old kerosene. I think I'm going to fill this up as high as I can. We're going to fill it with kerosene. We're going to run it because this does spin. It spins while it's running and it's just not disengaging because we're moving, and then we can basically let it just sit in there, break down whatever's in there causing issues, let it sit for a while. If we have to, maybe we'll stick a bar in here and try and bar that throw out arm this way to essentially pull that clutch out. Something that I want to fix without having to pull it. So let's just try and get this thing unstuck in the machine before I go resorting to tearing it out. If I tear it out, you know, it's gonna take a lot more time. Definitely looks like maybe this side's had some work done because this brake band looks newer. There's that little bracket down there, it looks newer. This little tube here, this little pipe that sends the hydraulic fluid inside here to this cylinder, it looks newer. So maybe at some point in its life, this side has been out and had some work done to it, and they just, this side wasn't to that point. So I recorded the entire recovery of this machine. Problem is I lost all the footage. And when I first got it started, it wouldn't drive at all. Like something was stuck. And then I just gave it some throttle and it finally let go, and it really engaged hard and went. Even from the very first when I got this thing, it wouldn't steer on either side. And so I was messing with both of them. Finally got this side to work and actually turn, and I never got this side to turn. At this point, we need it to turn. It needs to turn on both sides to be able to be a fully operational machine. Let's get the plug put back in this. We'll get it filled up with some kerosene, and then we'll just see what happens. So I like old cans, old advertising, you know, and a friend had this in his shop, and he basically said, hey, you want it? He goes, you can have the kerosene too. I was like, I don't want the kerosene, I just want the can. Well, I had to take the kerosene, and now I'm kind of glad I have it because we're going to dump it in here. I think I'm going to need more. So I've got diesel fuel. Thought about putting that in. But actually, we're going to put in a whole bunch of ATF. This is not hydraulic oil. I put ATF in this. I was given probably like 6 or 7 55-gallon barrels full of brand new ATF slash hydraulic fluid. It's red. It is ATF. It's Dextron pretty much 6. The military uses it interchangeably for hydraulic fluid or ATF. All ATF is hydraulic fluid with red dye in it, so you can tell the difference between a drip from your transmission and from something else. So it might be a waste, but between the kerosene and maybe a ton of ATF, I don't know. Let's see if it works. All right, it's been a few days and I've had that soaking in there. We're going to start it up and we're going to move it back and forth and see if we can't break this thing loose. Let's give it some throttle. See how cold starts. Probably won't without some ether, but we'll find out. Okay. I've had this thing soaking probably a couple weeks now, so got it running. We're gonna go ahead and give it a test. It's moving. All right, see right there? Look right here. All right, now that that's moving, we should be able to put it all back together and essentially figure out whether or not it'll turn. So let's work on that. All right, I got it mostly back together. Got this side all put back together and re-glued down with RTV. This side is only together with 4 of the bolts, but I've got it hooked back up and I've still got the oil in there. So we don't know for sure if the clutch is completely free and if it's actually gonna turn. But I had to assemble this side, so in case it does turn this way, this side's assembled so I can turn it back this way. I don't have a lot of room here with where I'm working, and it's getting dark out on me, but I want to try it, and I want to see if the clutch is freed up. If it is, I want to get that oil out of there. I want to try and dry and heat that brake band as best I can. Most likely, I'm probably going to have to replace the brake band, but for now, I just want to see if we have functionality. So let's get it started back up, and we'll give it a shot. That did not fix it. It could be a couple things. It could be, number one, that the brake band is out of adjustment. We need to tighten it. It could be slipping because of all that oil. We've got that brake band so, I guess, slick. It's not actually grabbing and making the turn. Because I kind of feel something when I push the pedal. Or it could be that we haven't fixed anything at all. It's not disengaging. The clutch plates in there are all seized up and bound up. Not sure. So it is moving better. So that clutch is actually pulling out. Way better than it was before. So my thought is we might need to just get all that oil out of there, get cleaned up, and try and tighten up the band and see if that works. If it doesn't work, then we're on to pulling the whole clutch out and cleaning it up, potentially rebuilding it if it's that bad. I bet it just needs to be cleaned up. But for now, for tonight, I'm done. I'm going to throw a tarp on this. This side's all waterproof and buttoned up. This side is not. I don't want water getting in there and making anything any worse than it already is. So that's all I got for tonight. I'll be back very soon. All right, well, we got that thing in here by the skin of my teeth. It was literally like maybe an inch, inch and a half on that far side. And it's difficult because we only have one track to steer with. So the whole point we're bringing it in, start working on that steering clutch a little bit more and not have to do it outside. But we got it in here safe and sound, didn't take the garage down. Success. Now, I'm gonna open the garage up. We're gonna air this place back out. Hope it stops soon. Uh-oh. It's a lot of fluid. There's probably, I don't know, 8 to 10 gallons right there. Not sure what that cavity is as far as size-wise goes, but it's a lot. Check that out. That is why our exhaust pipe is not sending exhaust up, kind of leaking out right here. That little collar thing. Looks like it literally melted off. So I have to fix that. Actually, looks like this muffler has a little drain hole in the very bottom. You can see a tiny little hole. I got the air intake kind of loose. I think I'm going to take off the whole muffler. I don't know if I want to touch these bolts here, but I might be able to get it off of right there. There's some tar in there. All right, so we're having a little bit of success here. That piston's coming all the way out, and this bolt here is like a bump stop. So it basically hits the frame in that spot and doesn't allow that piston to come out anymore. And so the actual clutch is moving all the way out. So all that time with the ATF and the kerosene soaking in there has done it a world of wonder. Now, the other problem is, did we totally soak these brake shoes in oil and potentially ruin them? So there's probably 1/16 of an inch or so. I don't know, maybe 1/4 inch. But it is quite a bit less than this side. This side had somewhere between 1/4 inch and 3/8 of material, maybe a little less, on the actual pads themselves. So obviously this side is worn down more. Maybe this side got a service and this side never did. I don't really know. So I know that this bolt here, when you turn it, the way I'm turning it now, which is counterclockwise, will loosen it, and the other way tightens it. And so also on the bottom, there's a bolt right there, and that bolt pushes up on the brake band and helps to center it in the case. So it basically is the pressure for keeping it kind of up and in the right spot so that it's not too far down and constantly wearing. That is only on these dry clutches. The wet clutches don't have that. They've got a different system. But I don't know. I'm halfway debating on throwing the whole cover back on this, tightening this thing up, adjusting it to the proper, correct spot, and then seeing if we can actually get this to turn on this side. I really am thinking I should probably do the brake bands and put them, you know, some new brake pads in there. I'm going to try and get away with not doing any of that because ideally I just want to make sure it works. I don't want to touch the brakes until I literally know I have to. I don't want to have to pull that clutch. That's why we soaked it for so long. And I probably soaked it a good month or two. Just to kind of give it the best shot of being able to break free on its own. And there was a lot of debris down in there. There's still a lot. And next time I get the pressure washer out, I'm probably going to pressure wash inside here. I do think this line here, this little hard line, right there's a rust bubble that worries me. And on this side, there was a brand new line in that spot. So I do know that side has had some work. A whole nother issue is, do I dive into trying to rebuild these two cylinders? I'm not really going to mess with it now. I don't really want to. I want to put this blade in the dirt. I want to make sure this machine is usable, is functional. I don't want to get out there in the dirt and end up having this thing just bogged down because there's some other issue, the transmission or the torque converter doesn't work or whatever. So whether or not I should do some of these additional things while I've got everything opened or not, I struggle with, because I want to evaluate this machine. I want to make sure it's worthy of time and effort before we go the route of putting a bunch of additional time and maybe unnecessary time into something that's not actually going to do its job. So I think for right now, I'm probably going to go ahead and reassemble this top cover, get that all put together, and work on tensioning the band correctly. And then we're going to probably just pull it back out. I put it up on the jack stands because of the fact that I wanted to have it up. If that wasn't going to work, I was going to work on tearing out the clutch. And in order to do that, there's a little hole right there with a plug. And that plug, that big square plug right there, that is how you loosen the bolts that hold the whole clutch in there. And the best way to do it is to have it up off the tracks or to push the machine back and forth. And I don't really want to push it back and forth while I'm in here. It would be much easier to just bar the track over with a bar or a bottle jack or something, and then I could line up these bolts individually and take them out through that hole. Let's see if we can tension this thing up, and then we'll try and turn it. All right, to adjust this brake drum, the actual brake band, the band itself, what you do is you tighten this thing up. So this here, you turn it literally until it's tight on that drum and isn't going to move. And then you come underneath, and there's a screw underneath. right there. And what you do is you tighten that thing until it literally touches the bottom of the brake band. Right there. Move that light back. And then we will turn it out 1.5 turns. So we're gonna call, let's see here. That's tight. So that's 1.5. And then there's a lock nut in there. Little nut. See the nut right there? So then we'll tighten that nut up. And that will be adjusted. Keep that right about there. A little difficult to do it one-handed. But right about like that is where that bolt is, and that bolt basically just kind of holds the bottom, keeps it from the band dropping too far down. Once that's tight, you come back up here, and we will back this thing off 3.5 turns, and the band should be adjusted to where it needs to be. All right, let's mark this. So I can see it. 1/4. There's a 1/2. 3 turns. 3.5. Yeah, that is significantly tighter than it was before. A lot. Which might make a big difference. That and the clutch is unstuck, so we're going to call that good. I'm actually going to dive in. I'm going to adjust this side too so that it's where it needs to be. This is a little cover for the adjuster to be able to tighten that band. It was RTV'd. I want to make a gasket for it real quick just because I think it'll be nice to have a gasket that can be taken off. And this is why I keep scraps of gasket paper, because this is a scrap off something else. I don't even know what. But I can make 2 gaskets out of it. And I don't have to cut into a bigger piece. There we go. Couple gaskets. And I'm not going to cut out the middle of the gasket and just do the edges. I'm just going to leave it as a whole thing. I know that eventually this will sag down in there. I really don't care. It doesn't matter. Better than it was. So I'm trying to get this thing started again. And I've got the battery hooked up. And normally when I give it a little glow plug, oh, now it goes. Huh. It's going to crank? Okay. Alright, well. So, what I was going to say was, over there on the front, there's some wires that I found that are corroded, and I believe that they feed down to the starter. And that could be a place where we're losing a ton of voltage and needing to jump over to 24 volts to get down and actually start it. So, there's a bunch of electrical we got to dig into on this thing. I wouldn't say a bunch, because this thing doesn't have a lot. But I would like to get all the gauges going. I would like to get some of the corrosion that I've seen, some of the wires fixed. But for now, since it does crank, unbeknownst to me, we're going to start it back up and test out the track brake while it's still in the shop on the stands. And then if it does actually break its track and stop it, then we're going outside. Sweet. We definitely have the track on this side braking. There's a little bit of a pause between when you push the brake and you got the brakes, or the actual track stopped. There's a little bit of a pause between that moment and when it starts back up. That's not the same on the other side. So there could be some, I mean, that's basically hydraulic pressure is not getting back to that system fast enough, maybe? Maybe there's a clogged filter, a screen. I don't know. I still don't have the manuals. I'm still flying by the seat of my pants here. But we've got it braking and disengaging, finally. So I'm going to lower this thing back down to the ground, and we're going to drive it out of here and do a little bit of turning for the first time in its life. Well, first time in its life with me. It died on me. All right, so I was able to get it back in here, and check that out. We were able to get it to turn on the right side and the left side. So this baby is absolutely turning beautifully. The clutch did not need to come out. The brake bands, there's plenty of pad from what I can tell, at least for now. If we have to dive deeper into that, the clutch or get new brake bands, we'll deal with that later. But for now, we've got the hydraulic blade, all that function is absolutely awesome. I did notice that this hydraulic line right there, I can't show you real well, but it's starting to cut into this edge of the blade there. So I need to get that line and that one, and also those two replaced probably very soon. But the problem I'm dealing with now is that this thing ain't running very well. So it's got to be a fuel issue because it keeps starting and then kind of bogging and dying. So I know we've got the leak here. For whatever reason, the supply here is rubber, but it's only rubber to like right there. So that's a problem for another day. I need to pull the valve cover off. I want to check the engine out, kind of check a few things, dive into the injection pump leak area. I want to pull off this exhaust manifold. I think it's this cylinder here, this first cylinder, that might have a valve that is stuck, and maybe we're leaking some oil past that because it is using a little bit of oil, and I think it's coming right out. Since I've had the exhaust off, it's been spraying all over kind of that area of the engine. So that's a new issue that has crept up. I'd like to drain the diesel tank, get all new diesel into it, and I need to finish bolting this cover back on. I'm going to seal it up with RTV like this one. I wish I had enough gasket paper to make a big gasket for it, so I didn't have to RTV it. But I don't have that, so for right now, I'm going to go that route. But we've got other issues, like it only wants to go in 1 forward speed. It won't go in 2 or 3. So I'm not quite sure what the issue is. I think that there's some ports on this transmission where I can put a test gauge on and see what the pressures are when I switch gears. We need to deal with getting the gauges working. There are this electrical connection. If you wiggle it, you'll get power down to the starter. I think we're losing a lot of power right there. And so I think I want to cut both ends of that and just put the wires together permanently. We'll solder them and then shrink wrap them together and put them there. But I'd like to take this whole mechanism off and get that thing rebushed, replace the pin, and see if we can get that tightened up. And this track, if you notice, is sagging a bit. I think that track tensioner has definitely got an issue. This one is holding tension a lot better than the other side. So maybe over time we'll mess with that. But really for now, that was absolutely amazing. I'm so glad we're able to get it to turn on both sides without having to tear the clutch out. I was fully prepared to tear it out, but hey, one more step on the process of getting the little Baby Dozer up and running and usable. That's the thing. I want to be able to put this baby into the dirt. Before we do that, though, I want to dive through the electrical, go through the engine a little bit, get some fluids changed, figure out why the transmission is not doing its thing correctly, put the seat back together, and then find a place and just beat the heck on it. Just try and wear on it and really see what else fails, because I don't think that we're going to get out of this project without having some issues once we get it running. All right, what do you think? From a dozer that was completely stuck when I initially walked up to it, to one that now turns both directions. Totally pumped that we were able to get that side working. But I hope you enjoy the process of this old Baby Dozer. Leave a comment if you'd like. I really appreciate the fact that you guys subscribe and watch all the videos. I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one here at Salvage Workshop. You guys take it easy.